And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jeffries versus Green. Step forward, please.
James Jeffries is suing his ex-boyfriend, Frank Green, for money stolen from his savings account, the return of personal property, and for vandalizing his van.
Mr. Jeffries, according to your complaint, you and the defendant had been in a relationship for about 7 years.
Correct.
Sometime, I believe it was in June of this year, you entered a drug rehabilitation program, a 29-day program.
Correct.
It is your claim, sir, that you came out of that program 29 days later and found that Mr. Green had stolen some of your property.
Yes.
Taken money out of your savings account with your ATM card.
Yes.
And when you confronted him about this, that he vandalized your car right in front of you.
Yes.
Mr. Green said he did none of those things.
That's right, Your Honor.
Now, how would he have gained access to your savings account, sir?
I gave him my ATM card at his urging. I had told him that I would pay his June rent if he would get my apartment back into order for me. I had told him I would call the bank and get him the money. He didn't need the ATM card, but he said, oh yes, he needed the ATM card, and he needed the ATM card.
How was the bank going to give him money on your telephone call?
I don't know. I was diagnosed with having suffered many strokes, and I just, wasn't thinking clearly, I guess.
What proof do you have that Mr. Green took the money?
Mr. Green had the card.
Yes.
And he cracked my code for my PIN number.
Did he ever give you his ATM card?
No, Your Honor, he never did.
All right, so there is no proof that he actually withdrew that money. Was there anybody else living in your apartment, sir?
No.
Anybody else have access to your apartment?
No.
Your Honor,
Yes.
he had several people living with him both before and after he was in the hospital.
That's wrong.
Well, I'm not sure because certain things he doesn't quite remember. Let's talk about the stolen items, sir.
Yes.
What items do you allege that Mr. Green stole from you?
Oh, a whole bunch of stuff. A Seiko watch. Where's the list?
Where do you allege he stole this property from?
From my apartment.
Was that while you were in rehab?
Yes.
Before you went into rehab, were you living there alone?
Yes.
For how long?
Since Mr. Green decided to vacate the premises January 4th of...
So between January 4th and June 6th, according to you, you were living there alone?
Yes.
Using drugs?
No.
Between January and June? Of course you were. What did you go into drug rehab for if you weren't using drugs?
Alcohol.
Drugs, alcohol, whatever it was. You didn't know what you were doing during periods of time from January until June.
Okay.
Is it a fair statement? Shh. Is it a fair statement that there were other people in and out of your home?
There might have been an occasional guest, but no one lived there.
I don't care whether anyone lived there, but you had people in and out of your home between January and June.
Yes.
Go
Your
ahead,
Honor,
Mr. Green.
He had just had the police there because there was a drug dealer that was in his apartment, and evidently this drug dealer had taken a bunch of money he had.
Okay. Mr. Jeffries, are you certain that you saw Mr. Green vandalize your car?
Yes, I saw him do it.
Well, tell me what you saw, sir.
I had just pulled into my back parking lot. I went outside and I noticed, first of all, that my passenger side mirror was broken. I'd seen him go up to the van. Didn't know what he was doing. Just, broke the mirror. And then I watched him to see how much further he was going to go. I didn't know what he was using, but he keyed the van all the way around. Wrote his name and everything.
You have a police report?
Yes.
Can I see it, please? Sure. Mr. Jeffries.
Yes.
I'm glad you gave me this police report. This police report clearly says that you did not witness Mr. Green doing any damage to your car. He, referring to you, stated that the name Frank was keyed into the hood of the car, and that is the reason he has listed the above-named suspect. The complainant stated that there were people in the building that told him they had witnessed the suspect vandalize the vehicle, but that you didn't see him do it.
Well, then they messed up on the police report.
Well, somebody messed up. Look, Mr. Jeffries, are you feeling better now?
Yes.
Great. Are you sober?
Yes.
All the time?
Most of the time.
Most of the time is not good. You can't be a sometimes social drinker.
Right.
You can't drink at all. Forget about this. This is over. You don't see each other anymore?
No.
You don't see him anymore?
No.
You go to AA meetings?
Yes.
All the time?
Occasionally.
You don't do it, you're going to continue to have strokes. One day they're going to find you on the floor. Put your hand down. Doesn't look like you're losing, right?
No.
Good. One day they're going to find you on the floor. Not going to be able to help you. If you were diagnosed as having had several strokes, how old are you?
49.
You want to live to be 50?
Yes.
Stay clean. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Frank's going to have to answer to a higher power.
He's upset because I left him.
He's a liar, a thief, and a cheat.
Been constantly harassing me.
He's crazy.
Recently, it was Monday night, throwing eggs at me.
Oh, no.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kaufman versus Hollett. Step forward, please.
Former bartender Nikki Kaufman is suing her former friend, 24-year-old cook Timothy Hullett, for trashing her car while he was drunk. Timothy says Nikki is also responsible because she was the one who served him the booze.
All right, I'm going to give you the short version of what I gather happened here. I want you to listen carefully, and unless there is any major discrepancy, we're just going to move on. You work in a bar as a bartender. You know the defendant. He must have been a friend of yours because he came to the bar that evening driving your car. He was in the bar all evening. When the bar closed or when they decided to leave, he got into some difficulty. He went outside, got into your car, and trashed your car. I don't care how he trashed your car. He trashed your car. So far, is that correct, Mr. Hullett?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Hullett acknowledges that he trashed your car. And he acknowledges he trashed your car because he was drunk. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
His defense is that you, as the bartender, served him too much liquor. And therefore, it is your fault that he got into the car and trashed it. What do you do for a living?
I'm a cook in a five-star restaurant.
Why would you want to blame somebody else for your stupidity?
I'm not necessarily blaming anybody, Your Honor. I'm just saying I do take responsibility for the actions that I've done.
Perfect!
I'm just saying, though, also I think that my judgment would have been clearer if I was not that intoxicated.
I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Hullett. So a 24-year-old man who works as a chef in a five-star restaurant should know when they've had their limit.
Sometimes,
You're
yes,
not
Your Honor.
7. What do you mean sometimes?
Sometimes
There's
just
nothing
feels-
genetically wrong with you, is there?
Not that I know of.
Can I see the cost of repair for your car, please, Ms. Kaufman? What kind of car do you have?
A 97 Chevy Malibu.
Have any insurance?
Yes, I do.
What kind of deductible do you have?
500.
Mr. Hullett owes you $500. That's your deductible?
Yes.
That's fair, isn't it, Mr. Hullett?
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable to me, too. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
A fight broke out, and it ended up back over in the parking lot where I was working, and my car was damaged.
I'm sorry that this whole thing happened.
He got in my car and was going to try to run people over with it, and he hit a couple of cars with mine.
I proceeded to get into a fight, and we thought it was over with. We went back over to the restaurant she was working at, and it followed us over there. And pretty much the rest is history.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Barriga versus Cully. Step forward.
Mechanic Roman Barriga is suing his former neighbors, Sean Cully Sr. and his wife Karen. Roman says the Cully's son, 14-year-old Sean Jr., broke out the windows on 2 of his Porsches.
Have a seat. You up. Tell me your name.
Sean Cully,
How old are you?
14.
Did you knock out the windows in his sports cars that were in his backyard?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I thought it was fun at the time.
Were you with anybody else?
Yes.
Who?
Jimmy.
Whose idea was it to knock the windows out?
Jimmy's.
Was there something in particular about his windows that looked enticing to you?
No, ma'am.
You mean you just had nothing else to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it a school day?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you gone to school that day?
No, ma'am.
You played hooky.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your parents know you played hooky?
Not until that evening.
How did they find out in the evening?
I left my jacket up at Mr. Berger's house.
That's how we found out it was you, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. You're his father?
Yes, ma'am.
You're his mother?
Yes, ma'am.
So what's your defense?
Well, the defense is I agreed to pay for the damage that he caused. There was another party involved.
The other party denied it.
The other party lied through their teeth.
Listen to me. The other party denied it. He has no proof that Jimmy was involved. He has proof that your son was involved because he left his jacket there. You go sue Jimmy for his half. Your son was involved. He's responsible for the whole ball of wax.
Okay.
It's not his responsibility to go chasing after the people involved. He got one person. He got your son, who was foolish enough to leave his jacket.
Well, he was foolish to skip school and get himself in trouble.
You're absolutely right.
And
So that if somebody has to go chasing around to find out who else was responsible, it doesn't have to be this man here. It has to be you.
Right. And
Right, because you should know where your son is. Because I guarantee it's not the first time he skipped school. Right?
well, yes, it was, to our knowledge.
Oh, no. It's not the first time he skipped school, is it? No.
Well, there we go. There's a first.
First time maybe you know about it, but it's not the first time he skipped school.
That's true.
Fine. May I please have the bills for the windows for the car, please? See, I didn't have to say anything.
It's $6,236,
Just
Your
the
Honor.
car windows?
Well, plus the installation, plus the clips, moldings, and other items that have to go with it to install that glass.
Let me see pictures of the car, sir.
There you are.
Just the pictures.
Just pictures.
How old are these cars?
One is a 72, one is a 74 Porsche 914, Your Honor. I was storing them for restoration, is what I was doing.
All the windows are broken out on the car. Did you see the damage to the car, sir?
I was not allowed to see the damage. I went up a couple days later. Mr. Braga wasn't home, and I asked, and they said, no, we can't let you back here till he's home. And the schedule I was working, I was gone constantly.
Your Honor, when we talked about retribution, he said, bring me a list of the damages, and I'll take care of it.
How much did you tell him the damage was, Mr. Barriga? Not $6,000.
No, at that time, he was going to repair it himself and take care of it. Just give me the list. All I need is the year, make, model, and the last date of the van.
Sir,
That's correct. I did say that.
did you ever tell him that the damage was $3,000?
The first time I talked to Mrs. Cooley, yes. That night, I said,
No,
Mrs.
sir.
Cooley, this is a minimum of at least $3,000. I said, a minimum of at least $3,000.
On the first night, it went from 13 to 3. And, Your Honor, I have here from the internet, 1972 Porsche 914. All I could pull up was a Targa. These cars are not Targas. Low retail value, $2,200 for a running car with all glass. I could pick these cars up at a junkyard for $500.
Then what you should do, sir, is do that.
Well,
You should listen to me, sir. Because he had these cars, and if he wanted to put them outside and grow geraniums out of the gas tank, that's his prerogative.
yes, it is.
That's his prerogative. Before your son decided to trash these cars, they had windows, front windows, back windows, side windows, vent windows, and they may not have been running and they may not have been in working order,
I understand
but
that.
they look just fine.
Would you like these? They come from the internet about the car?
No, I believe you, sir.
Okay.
I believe you. I also believe that the initial estimate of $3,000 is probably right, because if Mr. Barriga is restoring cars, and the reason he had these cars is to restore them,
Well, but
you were going to restore them yourself, sir?
yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And I went to go look where the damages were done. I found a young boy's jacket there, and it happened to belong to Mr. Cooley's son.
There's another party involved, and he knows this, because at my house, the deputies came over. He was well aware of the other party being there.
I kind of highly doubt that.
I agreed to pay for the cars, but I wasn't paying $3,000 for cars that ain't worth $4,000.
Gail Nelson and her daughter Jennifer Nelson are suing 25-year-old business analyst Kevin Harrell for destroying the paint job on their 9-day-old car.
Where were you on the 4th of July of last year, sir?
I was at a party with a friend.
Work sparkled over that he was lighting and damaged your car. You want Mr. Harrell to pay for the damage to your car.
That is correct.
Okay. Did you see him actually light any of the fireworks?
He physically admitted to us that it was him that shot the fireworks off.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't want to hear you. That's a lie. When I ask you a question, you'll answer the question. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. By the way, would you give Mr. Harrell this and ask him if this is his signature? That is your signature on the answer, sir. I'd like you to leave that with Mr. Harrell over there, please.
Thank you.
Who's going to speak?
I'm going to speak first.
Fine.
On approximately 11 o'clock on July 4th, 2002, I heard fireworks going on near my home, and I went to investigate, And when I did, I went to look out the sliding glass door, which is my den, facing the street and the driveway where the car was parked, the 1998 Ford Taurus that we are saying has been damaged. I saw fireworks coming down over the car, and I looked to see where the fireworks were coming, and they were coming a couple of doors down from my home. I have a picture that you can see where the fireworks were coming from.
Are you behind the fence or in front of the fence?
My house is in front of the fence,
okay,
and the fireworks were coming from behind the fence.
Okay.
And I also want to add, at the time that the fireworks were being shot, that tree that you see was in bloom. And the fear of that tree being caught on fire that close to our homes was also causing me to be very worried that, you know, a fire could catch onto my house.
Who was the neighbor?
The neighbor, his name was... I want to give you a sheet of paper that he gave me his name, address, and phone number on, and also is standing by a phone right now if Judge Judy would like to call him, and he will confirm that Kevin Harrell was at his home and he was the one shooting the fireworks.
Just tell me what you saw.
Okay.
May I see the picture that she gave you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. What I saw, I walked over, I am disabled, I walked over to the house, and when I got to the door, Kenneth McLemore identified himself, and his girlfriend was there. And the
door inside?
Inside, yes.
They were inside?
They came to the door, they were inside. When I told them what was happening, they apologized, and they said they would go and tell Kevin to stop shooting the fireworks, and apologized for it, and said that they had told him not to shoot the... Okay, seriously, I'm sorry. Okay, so I walked back. As I was walking back to my house, another set of fireworks went off at that time. I hollered to my daughter. She ducked because they were coming on top of her and the car. So I went into the house, called the police, and the policeman arrived, and here's his name and the police report.
Can I see the police report, please?
And I'm also providing what the Virginia Beach Code is regarding lighting of fireworks in our area.
You can leave the code there.
Okay.
I'm not
I'd like to see a copy of that police report, because the officer,
Can I
when
see
we
the
spoke
police
to him,
report,
said
please?
there was no report being filed due
Can
to
I
the
see the
fact
police
that
report,
there was
please?
no damage,
Can I
and
see the
also
police
due to the
report?
fact that there was
Tell him to
numerous
be quiet,
fireworks being
please.
lit off in the area.
I'm not paying attention to him. When it's his turn, he can speak. Try to explain that to him. Bird, did you explain that to him? Sure. When it's his turn, when the judge looks at him and asks him a question, he can speak.
Watch her. Speak when spoken to. You're going to be all right.
Yes, sir.
My man.
Thanks, Bird. No problem. Next.
When the policeman came, he went over to the house to discuss the issue of them shooting the fireworks off. After the policeman walked back to my house, Kevin and Kenneth and I think another friend of theirs came over, and Kevin said, "Let me see what damages I did. I didn't do any damages." And he looked at the car and he said, "That's just dust on the car." My daughter then said,
The dust was multicolored. It was red, white, blue, black, orange specks all over the car. So it wasn't not dust, it was ash.
Well, covered with ash doesn't necessarily mean that the car was damaged. That means it was dirty. If it caused damage, I'm going to see that in a minute. But first, I have to determine if there is any liability on his part.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Harrell, I want you to read to yourself the answer that you filed in this case.
Yes, ma'am, it's accurate.
I want you to direct my attention to the answer, which is lengthy, where you say, "I was not firing off any fireworks that evening." Just point to the line. Bird, would you go over to Mr. Harrell, please, so that it'll be easier for me to follow. Mr. Harrell is going to point out to you the line where he says, which would be, of course, the most important thing in his answer, "I was not lighting any fireworks that night."
Your Honor, this deposition...
Just point to the line, Mr. Harrell.
It's not here, Your Honor.
That's right. It sure isn't. Thank you, Bird. Yeah, we're finished. Now, Mr. Harrell, common sense would indicate that if you are accused of a crime, the first thing that you say is, "I did not do anything. I did not carry the gun. I did not use a knife. I did not light any fireworks. I did not hit the car."
Right, I understand.
Not, there was no damage. It was just dust.
Your Honor,
We
I
said,
have a witness that was
"Speak
present."
not, sir. I'm not interested in your witness because I'm not quite sure that your witness at this time wants to fall into my mouth. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you lie in court, you're supposed to be consistent. Otherwise, you're going to have somebody make a fool out of you.
And later today,
she induced me to accept her to pay these things. She didn't want me to go back to work. She wanted a companion at the time.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail Nelson and her daughter Jennifer claim Kevin Harrow is responsible for ruining their car's paint job. The women say Kevin was shooting off fireworks in the direction of their vehicle.
When somebody is filing an answer where he says not guilty, he's saying not guilty because I didn't do it. Not guilty because there wasn't any damage. Do we understand each other?
Your Honor, that statement notwithstanding, if you do continue to read my statement in regards to the damage and the conversation interaction I had with the plaintiff, as well as the interaction I had with the police officer came over after we had already gone to Miss Nelson's house. There was 5 of us, all carrying flashlights, along with both of the plaintiffs looking at the car. Okay?
We're not at damage, sir. We're at liability.
I understand. Your Honor.
I'm not at the damage part yet, sir.
Understood.
Well, then let's stick to the liability. There are 2 parts to a lawsuit, liability and damage. I don't get to damage until I reach liability. You just skipped right over liability in your answer and went right to damage, which strikes me as being you were liable, but there was no damage. Do we understand each other, Mr. Harrell?
I believe so, Your Honor.
You don't want to just hop in here, do you?
No, ma'am.
Smart girl. Now let me see a picture of the damage to the car, please, and the estimate.
Your Honor, can I see the initial picture that the plaintiff presented to you?
Now, I promised that you could do that, sir, so I'm going to show you that, and I'm also going to show you the police report.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, I'd like to point out one key feature that's missing from this picture, and that would be the fact that at the time of the alleged incident, the car in question was parked directly under this tree, which, as the defendant stated, was in bloom. The damage, so-called damage, was actually droppings from the tree. When we went over, I literally was able to wet my finger and remove it. Miss Nelson, having seen this, said, well, okay, someone needs to come wash my car tomorrow. The host of the party agreed. The following day, she said she changed her mind.
Mr. Harrell, we're not there, sir.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I first have to make a judgment that you were responsible for the fireworks. I believe you were. Now the question is, am I satisfied that the car was damaged? I would like something, them to point out something to me.
Your Honor. In
this paper that they just gave me where it says, what's wrong with the car? I'm missing it, and there are 5 pages there, so just find it.
It says that they would have to wet sand and buff the right side of the car, and they would have to polish for the buffing and clean up after the buffing. They gave us the prices of what would have to be done. So it's really just having your car Simonized and buffed, is that right? That is correct.
Mr. Harrell, you're much too old to be playing with fireworks, sir. And if you play with fireworks and if you cause damage to somebody's property, even if it's just annoying damage that requires their car to be Simonized, you're supposed to accept responsibility. If you lie in court, you're supposed to be consistent. So if your story is that you didn't have fireworks in your hand, you're supposed to remember that. You're supposed to remember from the time you file your answer to the time you actually testify. Otherwise, you're going to have somebody make a fool out of you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $205. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If she needs money that bad, get off welfare. Get a job. That's what the rest of us do.
I am not on welfare. I am on permanent Social Security disability.
So I hope she enjoys her $200. Maybe she can get her hair done or, you know, Slim Fast or something. We'll see.
I said, why would you want to pay court costs? This is a very black and white situation. And he said he thought it was frivolous.
Bottom line is, Miss Nelson wants something for nothing.
The car?
No, my daughter owned the car.
Your daughter is how old?
16. She worked for 2 years to purchase this car. I own it with her.
Who was the titled owner of the car?
Both of us.
Okay, because she's a minor, she can't own the property. Right. That's why you're here. And according to your complaint, these 2 young men took your daughter's car really almost without her permission or with her coerced permission, according to you. What happened with your daughter?
July 26th.
And when had she gone out that day?
She'd been at a family reunion until roughly 10-ish.
Don't look at her, look at me.
Roughly 10 when she was...
10 p.m.?
Correct.
So she was at a family reunion with you all day?
No, with her father.
Okay.
We're divorced.
So you really don't know anything that happened that day?
It's just from her.
Just for my purposes, I'm going to get what she told you. She told you she got a call. She was at a reunion with her father until 10 o'clock. Then she got a call from some people and she left.
Correct.
And did she tell you where she went?
To be a sober driver for this party.
Now you can sit down. Step up. Tell me your first name.
Jamie.
Ryan.
How old are you, Ryan?
22. Corey. 21.
What time had you arrived at this party?
Around 7 o'clock.
How many people were there?
Probably 10, 12.
And whose house was it at?
Friends, Mike.
What time did you see her at the party?
It's been 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Is that right?
No, it was later than that.
How late?
It was around 10:30.
What were you doing at the party?
Anna, a friend of mine from high school, had called me and she was drinking.
Called you where?
On my cell phone. I was on my way back home and asked me to drive her because she had been drinking.
So you arrived at this party. Had you known about the party that day?
No.
You had no idea that there was a party at Mike's house?
Exactly.
Did you know Mike?
From school, yes.
So you knew him?
Yes.
Had you ever been to his house before?
No.
So you got there at 10:30, and what did you do?
I drove some people home. I drove some people to Quick Trip.
You drove some people home?
Yes.
Who did you drive home?
Anna and Sarah.
About how far was it to drive them home from Mike's house?
It was probably a 10-minute drive.
And what did you do after you dropped them off?
Well, we went to her house and were there for
Who's
Anna's house, sorry.
Went to Anna's house, just the three of you?
Right. And we were there for about a half an hour. Her mother asked if she had driven. She said no, I was the sober driver. And I talked to her mother. And then she decided she wanted to go back to the party. So I took her back.
That was pretty stupid.
Yes, it was.
So you took her back to the party. Where was her mother when you decided to take her back to the party?
She went to sleep.
So, Jamie, I'm not stupid. Maybe your mother's willing to believe all this nonsense that you told her. I'm not. Because if you went to pick up your friend because you wanted to be a good Samaritan and your friend had been drinking and you took her home, then you say, so your mother is saying, you're a very responsible young lady. But a very responsible young lady doesn't say, okay, then I'm going to take you back to the party so we could all party.
I had no intention of letting that happen.
Then you go home. You don't drive back another 10 minutes to take her to a party. Now, when you took her back to the party, what was your intention?
Everyone seemed like they were staying there, so I wasn't needed anymore.
What do you mean you weren't needed anymore? You went to pick her up because she had been drinking too much to drive home. You take her home. She decides to go back to the party to drink some more, so you decide that she doesn't need you anymore, and you were leaving.
My main goal was that nobody drove drunk that night.
Then you shouldn't have taken her back. I'm telling you, madam, your mother may believe this nonsense that you told her. I don't. If your main goal was that nobody should be drunk and driving, then you leave your friend at home, at her home, and you say, I'm going home now. So then you drive her back to the party, along with the other girl, I assume.
Yes.
And then you were leaving.
Yes.
So what happened?
As I was walking out, they stopped me, Corey and Ryan, and wanted to drive my car. I said no, I was tired. I worked in the morning. I wanted to get home, but they insisted that they at least see it. So as they walked me to my car, they kept pressuring me into letting them drive it, and finally I decided it would just be easier to let them. I didn't want them to not like me. I felt kind of peer pressured. And so I let Ryan drive the car, and as I went to get into the passenger seat, Corey then got in first and pulled me onto his lap, and Ryan started driving very fast into these country roads. And they began fishtailing around gravel road corners, doing 93 miles an hour and screaming that the car would only go 93 miles an hour. And while they were doing this, I kept asking them to slow down or stop, and they wouldn't.
And?
And as we went back into town, the car started making some funny noises, and they told me it was a belt and it would probably just straighten out. And I was worried. I knew that wasn't right, but I was tired and I felt really violated, and I just wanted to get home.
Why did you feel violated?
Because while Ryan was totaling my car, Corey continued to try to grope my breasts and to get his hands in my pants, and I kept trying to have to fight him off, and he wouldn't stop.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She kind of started making moves with me and Ryan.
I want you to show me with Ryan. Ryan's next to you. How she rubbed up against you, sir?
Kind of like this, and then, kind of back and forth, and sitting on my lap. She was rubbing my leg and stuff like that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Jamie Swanson claims former friends Ryan Lutz and Corey Henry damaged her car during a party. Jamie also says Corey sexually assaulted her.
What time did you get back?
It was about 12:31.
Well, let me figure this timeline out. 10:30 you arrived at the party. You picked up your friend and her friend. You drove her home. 10 minutes. Let's say that's 11:15. According to you, you stayed at Anna's house for a half hour. That's 11:15. Then she wanted to go back to the party. You got her back to the party. That's 11:30. Now it's 12:30 or 1 o'clock. I'm missing an hour and a half. What happened in that hour and a half?
There were people there that wanted things from the Quick Trip in the gas station in Iota. So I took a list of what everyone wanted and went down and got it for them. I just made sure nobody drove. That was...
Oh, Jamie, that's such a crock. You made excuses to your mother because the car got totaled. I don't believe that you went there and then you took lists of things of people that wanted, and you went grocery shopping for everybody. I mean, I don't understand that.
I had a friend who was killed by a drunk driver, and ever since then, I don't want anyone driving.
Jamie, if you don't want anyone driving, then you drove your friend Anna home, and you leave her there. You don't take her back to the party.
Can I say something?
No, you weren't there. You believe this story?
I have a letter from someone that saw her.
You believe that? Saw her do what?
That saw her at the Quick Trip with the other kids intoxicated.
What does that have to do with? I believe she went there. I believe she was part of this party. Whether it's because she wanted to be accepted or whether she wanted to be part of the group, she went to the party. And you believe this story that she took her friend back to the party because if she didn't take her back, somebody else would have? You believe that?
I don't think it was a smart thing to do, but I believe her, yeah.
Then you'd be responsible for your own car. Take off the blinders. I'm not finished with you. We haven't even started yet. Who was driving?
I was.
Why?
I just wanted to take the car for a ride.
Why?
Just never drove that kind of car, and I guess we just wanted to go for a ride around the block.
You had been drinking.
Had probably 2 beers.
I don't care what you say you had. If you got there at 7 o'clock,
Yes.
by 10:30 or 11 o'clock, you had more than 2 beers, young man. Now, you decide you want to take the car out for a spin. Is that what you say to her? Can I take your car for a ride?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She gave me the keys, and we all hopped in the car and we went around the block.
No. I want you to take it step by step, Ryan. Let's do a step by step. You had the keys in your hand.
Yes.
You got into the car.
Yes.
What happened next?
And we got in. I got in, started up the car. Corey got in. She got in and got on his lap.
Why did she get on your lap, sir?
I got in, and she wanted to come along, and it was just a 2-seater car, no bench seat.
Oh, it's just a 2-seater.
Yeah, so I'm cramped up.
There's no back seat?
No, it does have it's just bucket seats, but it's got a back seat also, yes.
So she wanted to come along, she didn't want to sit in the back?
I guess.
How much had you been drinking that night?
About probably 3-4 beers.
And what about the plaintiff? Did you see her drink anything?
I did not see her, but I did not get there until 11 o'clock.
Okay. Where were you up until 11 o'clock?
I was working until 9, and then a friend come and pick me up.
All right, well, that's not... You're working until 9. Where were you between 9 and 11?
We stopped in Dover and talked to a couple people, and then we went to another place, and then we arrived out there.
So you went to a couple of parties first?
Yes.
See how I made that simple for you?
Yes.
You know, sometimes young people think that older people, not old people, but older people, they have this lapse and they were just born old. It's really not true. Bird remembers what happens when he was young. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So she got on your lap.
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then we proceeded to leave, and as we were going out of town, she kind of started making moves at me and Ryan. And
how did she make moves at you and Ryan? Now, I want you to be very careful, because, you know, I'm really good at this. You know.
Started rubbing
keep
up
me here because I'm gorgeous. They keep me here because I'm really good at it.
She started rubbing up against me, and
how did she do that? You know what I want you to do? I want you to show me with Ryan. Ryan's next to you. How she rubbed up against you, sir. I want you to show me that.
She was kind of like this, and then kind of, you know, rubbing on my shoulder.
I want to see.
Going like this and rubbing my arm and leg. And
she was rubbing your arm?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, she must have had her arm around your arm. Is that right?
Correct.
Show me how she had her arm around.
Kind of like this, and then, you know, kind of back and forth, and sitting on my lap. You know, she was rubbing my leg and stuff like that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And, you know, I said no, I didn't want nothing to do.
Please! You said, I don't want nothing to do with that.
That is correct.
And what did she say to you?
She didn't say nothing.
Did she stop?
Yes, she did.
How fast were you driving?
60, 65, 70 maybe. I don't know. I couldn't see the speedometer.
Fast?
Not out of...
60, 65, and 70. You weren't on a highway, were you?
There was...
You weren't on a highway the entire way, were you?
No, not the entire way.
What happened when you got back to the party?
After we got out, I realized that we were kind of blocking this neighbor's driveway, and I'd mentioned that to Ryan, and he proceeded to get back in the car, and they wouldn't start. And after that, we tried to pop the hood to see if we could see what was going on or try and get started, and we couldn't do that.
So now the car doesn't start. You had the car towed, is that right?
Yes.
Now, at what point, Jamie, did you call the police and tell them that you had been sexually assaulted by Corey?
The next day after it happened.
Can I see the police report, please? What time did you get home that night, Jamie?
It was about 1:30, 2 a.m.
Who took you home?
Anna.
So, Anna, your drunken friend took you home, is that right?
Right.
Who was home?
Nobody was. My neighbor was staying with me.
So nobody's home. Where was your mother?
She went to her husband's house. He had to live in Sioux City, Iowa because of his visa. He's from Poland.
So instead of staying with your father where you had some supervision, you decided to stay in your own house where you had no supervision. Is that right?
My neighbor was staying with me.
Your neighbor wasn't supervising you, madam. You were out until 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock. What kind of supervision is that?
Not very good.
You were having a party. Now, at what point did you find out that your car wasn't start, and that the engine had blown on your car?
The day after I had it towed, the mechanic looked at it.
You had it towed?
Yes.
The next day?
Yes.
What time?
It was probably about 3 or 4-ish.
When did you find out that the car wouldn't start that day, on the 27th of July? Did you go back there in the morning?
I went back there, yes.
What time in the morning?
What was it? 9.
And at that time, it wouldn't start?
Right.
Right? Okay. And did you call the mechanic?
Yes.
And told the mechanic, please come and tow the car? Or he said to you he would come and tow the car?
It was a different towing service. It was AAA. So they towed the car. The mechanic...
What time?
3 or 4 in the afternoon.
And you waited at the house all that time?
I waited at the car.
At the car?
Yes.
Well, the car was at the house?
Yes.
You waited in the car or at the house?
I waited in the car. I was in the house for a brief moment.
So you were in the house too?
Yes.
Who was in the house?
Ryan and Aaron were there, and Jared was there, and Mike.
What time did you go to the police station?
7-ish.
In the evening?
Yes.
See what I mean? You always get yourself tripped up, honey.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry? I'm going to tell you, you're sorry. It's very easy. If you have been sexually assaulted, you don't hang around with the guys who were responsible, at least one of them who was responsible for your being sexually assaulted for a whole day, and then go to the police station in the evening to report it.
I was very, very upset after it happened, and...
Then you go to the police station right away. You don't wait until after you find out that your car's got a blown engine, and then start looking for a story. When the police asked you if you wanted to file charges with regard to the sex assault, what did you tell them?
I told them I didn't know yet. My mom was trying to make an arrangement so that I wouldn't have to deal with any of it because I was really emotional at the time.
No, this is what you told the police. You told the police that you didn't know whether you wanted to file charges or not because your mother had already contacted the 2 suspects' parents, and if they pay for the damage done to the motor, they won't file charges.
She was looking into my best interest so that I wouldn't have to see them again.
You saw them. You spent the day with them the next day. Corey, what's your last name?
Henry.
Case is dismissed as relates to Corey Henry. Sit down. I don't believe a word of what you say about being sexually assaulted by this young man. But I do believe that you took a car, and I do believe that you drove it recklessly, and I believe that you took it with her permission. So that means that both of you were responsible for what happened to the car. You're responsible and you're responsible. Now let me see the bill for the damage. When you leave a 17-year-old alone, unsupervised, they get into trouble. You understand that?
Yes.
This is a bill for therapy.
She's been in counseling ever since, and I have a letter from her psychiatrist stating that.
It's your bill. Next time you stay home with your daughter. If you paid $2,600 for the car a year and a half ago, I've taken off $600 for the year that she drove the car, year and some months that she drove the car, leaving the value of the car $2,000. I consider both of you responsible. You responsible and you responsible. She's going to pay some and you're going to pay some. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He violated me, and I don't, you know, I paid so much for that car, and I worked really hard for it, and he didn't even have to pay for it.
I feel like she just wanted money.
He was groping her in the car. She wanted to hide it. We worked with Rape Line, and Rape Line was the one that sent us to the police department.
I was getting calls from her mother stating that if we didn't pay for the car, she was going to charge us with 5th-degree sexual assault.
Hopefully that they won't do this to anyone else, because nobody deserves this.
She ended up letting the drunk driver drive her home. What's that say?
23-year-old computer technician Stephen Acosta and his wife Cheryl are suing the father of Cheryl's daughter, 25-year-old plumber Ariel Navarro, and his wife Stephanie. Stephen says during a custody exchange, Ariel assaulted him.
It is.
From what I understand from your complaint, your wife has a child.
Correct.
You're the father of that child.
Yes.
You used to be her boyfriend?
Boyfriend.
How long have you been married?
Going on 2 years.
And you have another child?
Yes, I do.
A baby. According to you, Mr. Acosta, during an exchange of visitation between your wife and Mr. Navarro, could you sit down, please? Good. You were assaulted by him.
Correct.
And Mr. Navarro said that you were the aggressor. I gather that this exchange takes place at a police precinct.
Correct.
Why, Mr. Acosta?
Well, he used to be able to pick her up at my house, but see, every time he picked up at my house, he'd always threaten me and everything like that.
So initially the visitation provided that you pick up, it's your daughter?
Yes.
That you pick up your daughter at the house. What happened?
Just from prior experiences before, me and him get into altered arguments. And
why should you get into an argument?
A lot of times it was things that were passed from my Mrs. Acosta. We would have a dispute or something about pickup times, maybe being late 10 minutes, not complete information about hospital appointments and stuff like that.
When was this visitation that resulted in an assault, Mr. Acosta?
October 16th.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, we're driving, me and my wife were in the car, we're driving up to the police station. I was parked.
When had Mr. Navarro had his visitation? Was this a Sunday or a Saturday?
It was a Wednesday.
When did you pick your daughter up?
I picked her up that day from school, and I kept her for the evening and dropped her off at the
Is that
police
what
station.
your visitation
Yes.
schedule provides?
Yes.
Wednesday after school?
Yes.
So you picked her up from school, and what time were you supposed to exchange her at the precinct?
At 7 o'clock.
And you were there at 7?
Yes, I was there before.
And were you there at 7?
Yes, I was.
Tell me what happened.
Well, when I got into the police department, to the driveway, the defendant was sitting there with his hands folded to his chest, just giving me bad looks. Me and my wife were looking at each other and go, something's wrong. And, you know, so as soon as we parked, she told me, he's still looking at you. So I told my wife, just go in the police station, do the exchange, and let's go.
You remained in your car?
Yes, I remained in my car.
And I see that your baby was in the car as
Correct.
well. How old is your baby?
She's 17 months.
Go ahead.
Okay, she went there to wait for him to come to the office. He still stayed outside, standing by his truck, giving me bad looks. Then, after 5 minutes later, he grabbed the daughter, went to the police station. I seen him and my wife arguing back and forth. He still had my stepdaughter in his hands.
How did you see them arguing?
The windows are see-through. You can see right through the windows. They're just arguing. Okay, after that, he came outside, like, fast-pacing to my car, cursing at me and saying F and this, get the F out of the car. I go, well, what's wrong? You know, he's, oh, you hit my kid. I go, hit your kid? I go, I didn't even hit your kid. I go, why would I hit your kid? I treat your kid as she was mine.
Where was your daughter at the time, sir, when you came out of the precinct?
She was in my arms.
Go ahead.
Okay, while his daughter was in his arms, he was sitting there cursing at me through my window. My 17-month daughter was in the back. She was sleeping still. Okay, after he kept on cursing, he kept on going, more, get out of the car, this and that. I told you, if anybody ever laid a hand on my kid, I'm going to take him out. So I go, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, just go on your other side. Then he started getting more violent. Then my 17-month-old daughter woke up, and she was crying. So I was looking back, and I told her it's okay, you know. I go, relax, it's okay. And he still kept on cursing. While his daughter's still in his hand, he kept on still cursing. I go, a father shouldn't be cursing with his daughter's in his hand. That's not a good role model for his daughter.
You didn't say that to him, sir. Mr. Acosta, you didn't say you're not a good role model. Come on, let me just hear what happened, sir.
Okay, as soon as I got out of the car, because my 17-month-old daughter was crying in the back. So I went to go pick her up and go into the police station. As soon as I got out of the car, he swung my door open. He grabbed me by 2 hands. He threw me against my car 3 times. And by out of those 3 times, he damaged my car on the side. I do have pictures to show proof.
Let me see it.
There's estimates on the underneath the pictures also.
I'll hear you.
Okay, Your Honor. What he said, completely a lie.
That's my job. Mr. Navarro.
Okay, I arrived at the police station about 5 minutes till 7. I arrived there before they did. Once arriving, I was out of the car with my daughter inside the police station waiting for them. I was never outside. They're saying that I was out there with my arms up. That never happened. I was inside the police station waiting for them. I waited there until Cheryl and her husband arrived there, parking pretty much in close to the doors where I can see them drive up, until she got out of the car and entered the police station. I never was outside.
Fine, you weren't outside. What happened when you were inside the precinct, sir?
Once I was inside, I spoke to Miss Acosta.
What did she say to you and what did you say to her?
What I told her was, in the prior visitation before, Brianna had told me that Mr. Acosta had hit her and that she was playing with her younger sister and that somehow she ended up crying and that Stephen came in and got mad at her and hit her. So what I did was, when Miss Acosta came in, I told her what had happened. I told her, Brianna's telling me that Stephen hit her. Were you aware of it? What happened? And she's like, Brianna, is that true? And Brianna said yes, to her mother, standing there.
Was this on this date? Was this on the 16th of October?
No, it was the 12th is when I told her. So that's when I had told her the first time. The second time when I was waiting there, and I had came in, I had told her again, Brianna's telling me the same thing.
What did you tell her?
I told her, on the way to the police station, Brianna had told me I don't want to go. And I said, why not? Stephen's still hitting me. So then I said, what do you want me to do, Brianna? Do you want me to tell your mother? Tell me, what do you want me to do? I go, if I'm going to say this, 4 years old.
So you're saying to this 4-year-old, tell me what you want me to do, Brianna.
Well,
do you want me to tell your mother that's what you're saying to her? Mr. Navarro, you think I'm crazy?
No.
That's not the kind of conversation you have with a 4-year-old, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You keep whatever disputes that you have between adults, and you don't involve your 4-year-old.
I just wanted to question Stephen in front of Brianna to see what reaction she would have.
That's not your job.
Stephen Acosta says the father of his wife's daughter, Ariel Navarro, assaulted him during a custody exchange at a police station. Ariel says Stephen was the aggressor.
Go ahead.
So once we were in there in the police station on the 16th, I told Miss Acosta, Brianna's telling me that Stephen's hitting her again. What I want you to do is talk to Stephen about this, tell him what's going on. And she blew up. She said, why are you always starting to start trouble? And I said, look, I'm not starting trouble. I just want to resolve this. This is my daughter. It's very important for me what's going on in her life. And I think this needs to be talked about. So right away, she blew up and says, you know, why the hell are you starting problems? And I said, look, tell him to come inside the lobby so we can talk to all 3 of us right here in front of the lobby so we can, you know, resolve it.
And where was Brianna going to sit when you were having this conversation?
I wanted Brianna there because I wanted Brianna to listen to what's happening.
Where did you get your psychiatric degree? Mr. Navarro, where did you get your degree? You wanted the 4 of you to sit and have a discussion inside the police precinct.
I just wanted to question Stephen in front of Brianna to see what reaction she would have.
That's not your job!
Okay.
So she blew up at you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
As soon as she blew up, I said, if you're not going to tell him anything, I'm going to tell him. So with Brianna still in my arms, I exited the police station because showing that I was not going out there to be aggressive or telling any...
I sat in the family court. How old are you?
25.
That many years. I'm going to tell you what happened.
Okay.
You went into the precinct and you were furious. You were furious because when you spoke to Mrs. Acosta, the mother of your child, she was unimpressed by your complaints. And she probably said to you, Brianna says things about you and says things about, this is Stephanie? Yeah, I read the papers. So you have a 4-year-old who's probably playing both sides. And you weren't getting anywhere with Brianna's mother.
No.
And you were furious, so you didn't make the exchange, because if you wanted to do the calm thing, what you do was say to her, I want to go out and talk to Stephen privately myself. If you weren't angry, if you hadn't lost it. So here's Brianna, you take Brianna, because I don't want Brianna involved in the situation when I talk to Stephen. That's what you do if you're calm. But you weren't calm.
Your Honor,
you were furious. So you took your daughter, because you did not make the exchange. Your visitation was over, 7 o'clock. You did not make the exchange in the precinct. You went outside. You confronted him with the child in your hands. There's no question in my mind that you caused this damage to the car. No question. Now, you want to tell me how that happened with your 4-year-old?
As soon as I stepped outside and I said, Stephen, I need to speak with you, which I did very calmly, went like that, he swung the door open. When he flung it open, I had to turn to my side because that's how hard he opened the door, that it braced my side. As soon as I saw him getting out of the car and like that in a rage that he was, I set my daughter down and I told his mother, grab the baby, and she said no. And at the same time, when I put her down, I came back up. He was already in my face. I never told him to get out of the car. As soon as he came out of the car, he grabbed my shirt. I grabbed him. He shoved me, and at the both time, we were both pushing each other. We both swung into his car.
Baloney. You went out there, Mr. Navarro, and you were furious. You were furious because you hadn't gotten anywhere. Now, let me give you some very sound advice, sir. It is a sad commentary. Put your papers down, both of you, and pay attention. Look like you're paying attention. Have you gone back to family court yet with regard to resolving the issue of visitation with this child?
Yes, we have.
What is the current order of visitation?
He lost a week due to the incident, what happened October 16th. He lost a week, and he lost his dinner nights.
It's clear to me, Mr. Navarro, that you love your daughter. It's clear to me that that's true. And that you, in all probability, should continue to be a part of her life. You want what's best for her. You have to understand that very often 4-year-old little girls who are very, very smart will play both sides of their parents, especially when their parents are living separate. You have to understand that that's a possibility. You're not supposed to question your daughter. You're not supposed to say, what's Stephen doing? Is Stephen hurting you? Is Stephen hitting you? When you have a 4-year-old and you have a baby in the house, very often the 4-year-old is aggressive. You've never seen marks on your child?
Yes.
Where
I'm
have you
saying
seen?
it was caused by him. I'm saying marks of me.
Okay, you've never seen marks
No.
that you attribute to
No,
him
no.
on your child?
No,
right?
not at all. But at the same time, I was saying...
I'm speaking, and you're not listening.
Okay.
You keep whatever disputes that you have with Mr. Acosta between adults, and you don't involve your 4-year-old. That's it. There is no question about that. That's a given. That's something any moron can understand, Mr. Navarro. You don't, the 3 of you, get together and you decide to have your 4-year-old sit there at a conversation where you're going to discuss with her mother and her stepfather whether or not she's being hit at home by her stepfather or your wife. You have children?
Yes.
Other than Brianna?
Yes.
How many?
We have a 2-year-old together, and then I have 2 stepsons.
Okay. And anybody ever go like this to one of the children? You? Her?
Yes.
Ever hit them on the behind?
Yes.
What about Stephanie? Did you ever see Stephanie raise her hand to one of the children?
Not Brianna.
Did you ever see Stephanie raise her hand to one of the children?
Yes.
Why, you think she's only going to reserve that for her children and yours?
Yes.
You think that that's true?
Yes.
Baloney. So let's get it together. But you don't put your child in harm's way. You lost your temper, Mr. Navarro, and you caused damage to his car. And I don't think you hurt him. You weren't treated for any injuries, were you?
Yes, I was, ma'am.
Where?
My neck.
Let me see. Was Mr. Navarro arrested?
Yes, he was.
What was the result of the case?
I pressed a charge against him, and he pressed a charge against me, too.
What did he press charges against
Because
you for?
when I was talking to the sheriff, when he came outside, he's like, what do you want to do? I go, I would like to press charges. He goes, Mr. Acosta, you know, he will have a right, too, to press charges against you. He can turn the story around. I go, I think I'll take my chances on doing that. because he thinks every time.
So what happened?
So we both got arrested.
Well, what happened with the case?
It got dismissed.
Both of them?
Yes.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Navarro?
I'm a plumber.
And you?
Computer technician.
So $656 was the cheapest estimate that you had for fixing the car?
Yes.
How many times has there been an exchange of visitation since October 16th? You lost a week, sir, and what else?
I didn't lose a week. I gained the whole side weekend. And my visitations were 3 times a month, weekends, 1st, 3rd, and 4th, and then Wednesday evening dinner. The new order is I get her every other weekend, and I get her Thursday through Sunday. I have a longer period with her.
Every other weekend?
Every other weekend. Prior, we've had, I say, maybe 8 drop-offs since.
And how have they gone?
They've been fine. But I also wanted to say, from prior to that, there's also a restraining order there, prior from my wife filing on him for in the past of showing his anger and his violence towards us. A restraining of saying over the phone, terrorist threats over the phone. I was trying to get a hold of me, and that was filed in March, I believe. And it's good to 2005 for his actions.
Your wife is the complainant.
Yeah, but it covers also for me.
But your wife was the complainant?
Yes.
I'm curious. Step up, please, Mr. Navarro. What were the allegations in your request for a protective order against Mr. Acosta?
It was to refrain him from calling my house, making verbal threats against me and my family.
Was there a trial with regard to that?
Yes, there was.
Did you testify?
Yes, I did.
Did he testify?
Yes, he did.
After that trial, were you granted the protective order?
Yes.
For 12 months?
It was more than 12 months. It was granted to 2005.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Why were you calling the house?
That was one of her false allegations that she pressed against me. Ever since I got with my wife, they've been writing reports about me, filing reports against me at the Foothill Police Station, at the Azusa Police Station. She finally got her letter together, and she went to the court office and filed a restraining order against me, saying I threatened her house, which never happened. She lied against the whole thing. And when we went to the court, the judge told me, he goes, she took you to court. You didn't take her to court, so I'm going to grant her restraining order. He told me if I want to get a restraining order, I could take her to court too.
You're responsible for his car, Mr. Navarro. His car is $656. What were your out-of-pocket expenses, sir, for your medical care?
None. I'm on Medicaid, man.
So it was all covered?
It was all covered.
Mr. Navarro, you got to learn to keep your temper. Especially you have to learn to keep your temper in front of your child. Do you understand that?
I understand, Judge. But
You lost your temper. You lost it. If you hadn't lost it, then you would never have placed your child in harm's way.
I didn't go out there to be
Yes,
in
you
harm's
did.
way.
You placed your child in harm's way because if you wanted to protect your child, then what you do is you give the child to her mother in the precinct, and then if you're completely composed, then you want to go outside and discuss, as you indicated, you wanted to just discuss it calmly, you can go over to Stephen and discuss it calmly. However, based on what you told me, Mr. Navarro, your wife was frightened enough of this man to have previously gotten a protective order against him because you say he called on the telephone and threatened bodily harm to your family. Then, under those circumstances, you take your daughter out of the precinct where you were supposed to have dropped her off with her mother. You were so angry that you couldn't control yourself that you went up to the car with your daughter in your hands and confronted this man who you thought was so dangerous that your wife needed a protective order. So if you're telling me that you were behaving in a rational way, the way that a father would behave if they were trying to protect their child, I'm telling you that you did not. You lost your cool, Mr. Navarro. And you're still insisting to me that you didn't? You did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That covers not only your car, sir, but almost $1,000 for being assaulted. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Wait here, please.
I've done in the past everything I can to do the right way.
He thinks he always can win everything.
I needed to talk to him.
We just proved him today that he can't win everything.
She wouldn't want to listen.
His wife and him just outraged. They can't settle things outside court.
I went out there hopefully trying to get some type of agreement.
I'm glad it's over. It was just a big custody battle.
Couldn't work it out.
That woman he married thought she could just win everything, and I guess this proves to them they didn't, because he got scolded.
What it is they're both unemployed and just really need extra cash.
I think it'll give him a better intake on how he handles his temper when his daughter's around him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morin versus Baird. Step forward, please.
Photo technician Joanne Morin is suing her ex-fiancé, construction plans examiner James Baird, for the cost of a cruise ticket. James is countersuing for the return of a suit and for the cost of a vasectomy.
All right, Bert, I've read the papers in this case. Don't get comfortable. We're not going to be long. Okay. Miss Morin, you and the defendant dated. You were supposed to go on a cruise together. You couldn't go because a relative, I think your father, became ill. The defendant went with 2 of his children, but your son had paid for the cruise ticket. In any event, you say that he owes you $200. He says, more than happy to give you the $200, right? Give me back my suit that I left at your house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the suit?
Yes, ma'am.
Give him the suit, Bert. I told you, this case has lots of little parts, but we're going to handle them all very quickly. Good. Now you have your suit. The suit goes on your side, and plaintiff gets $200. Are you happy? Good. On your side, you have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Your counterclaim is twofold. A, you wanted your suit back, you got your suit. You want her, A, to give you back the engagement ring.
Oh, the money for it, yes.
Where's the engagement ring?
I have it with me right here.
Perfect.
You want to see?
No. Goes back. Goes to his team. Happy now? Almost.
Almost.
The other part, you're not going to even be happy that you raised, sir. You want her to pay for a vasectomy that she insisted that you have because she didn't want any more children.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Did she grab you by the hand and take you to the doctor?
No, she...
Very good. Then you don't get paid for the vasectomy. You're over 21, you made a choice. If you don't like the choice, you'd have to live with it or get it reversed. Goodbye and good luck. That takes care of this.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Actually made a lunch date with his brother to discuss the vasectomy. He discussed it more with his brother than he had with me.
I tried to avoid the whole situation, and it wasn't avoidable.
I think the worst part about the whole thing is that innocent people had gotten hurt because of our actions.
When you fall in love with somebody and they want you to have an operation, I think you ought to think twice.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McKay Schuler versus Anglin. Step forward, please.
19-year-old waitress Ashley McKay and her boyfriend, 23-year-old dishwasher Craig Schuler, are suing their ex-roommate, customer service rep Brandy Anglin, for the return of personal property. Brandy is countersuing for rent, a security deposit, and the cost of living expenses.
Miss McKay, were you a friend of the defendant's?
No, we were a friend of her boyfriend.
Okay. According to your complaint, you and your boyfriend moved in with the defendant because you were having some financial difficulties and I gather got evicted from where you were living. You say that she agreed to let you stay there until you got back on your feet. Then something happened, she threw you out. It's your claim that she kept some of your property. You want her to pay for the property she kept. The defendant says that she did in fact keep some of your property because you owed her so much money, that you were there for 3 months, and in the 3 months that you were there gave her a total of $40. You didn't pay rent, you ate all of her food, you had a lot of other bills that you had while you were there, and she's counterclaiming. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. When did you move into her house?
August 19th.
And when did she put you out?
It was September 18th.
So you were there 1 month?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
No.
When did she move in?
July.
July what?
29th.
And when did she move out?
September 18th.
So she was there 6 weeks. Okay. What stuff do you claim she kept?
We have a whole list right here. We have a 27-inch TV, a DVD player, a stereo, PlayStation 2, a fridge. We had Oriental rugs that were taken, my cell phone, DVDs, PlayStation games, VCR tapes, CDs, the book that had our CDs in it, our CD holder.
Where's all that stuff?
I don't know. I'm missing stuff also. And I take it that they didn't receive it either. But I do have
I don't understand what you're talking about. When you moved out, all this stuff was in the house, and I gather you told them to leave.
I told them to leave that night.
And they left. And at the time they left, all that stuff was in the house.
Yes.
So where is it now?
My stuff's missing too also.
No.
Okay, where
the day they left, because you told them to leave. You were angry about something. I don't care what you were angry about. They left, and they didn't have opportunity to take all this stuff when you told them to leave that night. The next day, where was their stuff?
Still in the house.
When did you realize it was no longer there?
When the landlord showed up the 20th to get rent, and when I paid him the rent, he comes in the house like he usually does, and his translators come in, and he saw holes in the walls that they left in their room and in the door, and he told me to get out. So in the process of moving my stuff, some of my stuff came up missing.
I don't believe a word she says. When did you go back to get your property?
The 19th. So it was the very next day that we went back.
All right, you're suing for $3,000. The stuff that you have on this list is substantially more than that, but I gather that your limit is $3,000 in small claims court. Is that right? Okay. I don't believe this much of what you just told me about. I have no idea where their 27-inch TV is, where their DVD player is, where their VCR is, their PlayStation, where their small refrigerator is. I don't believe that you don't know where that stuff is.
I do know where that is.
Where is it?
I do. I've got that in storage at the place that I'm staying at. I do.
There
the TV,
you go.
Not the
you
DVD,
go.
but a VCR and a cell phone, which actually we have the same cell phone, but mine's a prepaid and hers a CenturyTel, and I have tried to return that to her because I don't want obligations to where accidents, somebody getting a hold of her phone.
What about
and
a television, her DVD player, a stereo, PlayStation, refrigerator?
No, PlayStation I do not have. I do not. I will account for what I do have. I have 5 items of theirs.
Well, then let's hear what 5 items you have.
I have the 27-inch TV.
Okay.
I have a VCR. I have the mini refrigerator.
Okay.
I have the cell phone and a microwave.
Now, I'm going to go over this very carefully with you, because if I find anything on here that I don't believe that you actually left when you left, that's not a good idea for you. You've got $400 worth of jewelry. You want to tell me about that?
Most of it was rings that my mom gave to me when she was about 16. She gave them to me. That's when she had them. I had a silver necklace for my grandma. I had 2 of those.
Why didn't you take that with you when you left?
When we were kicked out, it was about 12:30 at night, and she said, "Get out of my house. I have 2 gentlemen downstairs that will escort you out if you don't leave."
What items did you take when you left?
We got dressed, put our coats on. I grabbed my purse, money, car keys. That was it, and we took out.
Where's her jewelry?
I don't know where the jewelry is. I do not. I've never seen her wear a bit of jewelry. I don't know.
Do you have any of her CDs?
No, I do not.
You know where they are?
No, I do not.
Okay. Within 5 days, the TV, VCR, refrigerator, cell phone, the microwave are to be turned back to the plaintiffs. They're in storage?
Yes, they are.
What's the name of the storage?
It's actually at the place where I'm living, in the basement. That's the storage. My stuff is in storage also down there. I'm using my ex-mother-in-law's house as that, because I have a lot of my stuff down there also.
Let's hear your counterclaim.
Okay, they lived with us rent-free. Okay.
6 weeks, right.
Yeah. They made me lose my deposit on the house because they're little bickering, arguing, fussing, fighting all the time. And I lost my deposit because they got too upset at each other and him throwing stuff or punching the walls or whatever it is. I lost my deposit on my house.
You mean your security deposit?
Yes, I do.
Did you make any holes in the walls?
No, ma'am, I did not. Her and her boyfriend be fighting all the time. That's where the holes came from.
Go ahead.
They'd sleep all day. I even got her job at where I was working.
Would you tell me what they owe you money for, please?
What they owe me money for? They lived there rent-free. They ate all the groceries. The only groceries they brought in, I guess, was at like 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. They'd bring them in snacks.
Well, what was your arrangement with them?
My arrangement was $325 a month, and it was supposed to be including everything but food, which is gas and electric, stuff like that.
When did you make this arrangement with them?
Arrangement was made with them in July, the beginning of July. Other than that, but they, I'd watch his son when they were up doing whatever they wanted to.
What money did you give them towards the expenses of running the house?
Well, we did only give them $40. We had no agreement before we moved in.
Let's say you didn't.
Okay.
What about food?
She said she took care of the food. We could eat whatever we wanted. Her cabinets were always stocked. As long as if we made dinner, we made enough for everybody, and they would do the same thing.
Well, who bought the food?
She did.
Why should she support you?
We actually, when I started working, we went out to eat like every night. We started keeping food up in our bedroom. That's why the fridge was in our bedroom that my mom bought us, because we felt like we weren't allowed to eat there. All we did eat there was like eggs, cereal, macaroni and cheese, just side items. We didn't get into any meat, any expensive things whatsoever.
What difference does it make? That's food. Why should they support you?
That's just what she told us when we moved in. That
Why would she do that? Why would she do that? I don't believe that you necessarily had a rent arrangement with them, but I certainly believe that you didn't have an arrangement with them where you were going to support them like they were your children for the 6 weeks that they were there. And even if they paid minimally to cover some of the expenses, $50 a week, which is minimally what you absorbed while you were there, that would be $300 for the 6 weeks that you lived with them. I think that the rest of your stuff here maybe is worth $500. The difference in that is $200, and that's what you're going to get, period, plus the remainder of the stuff that she has that's in storage. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They're actually looking for Craig right now, so.
She's lying. She's lying. about everything.
Well, because they want to have questions for him on the threats and everything.
She's just full of it.
Threatening me when I left the store. They were swerving to hit my children.
I never threatened her.
Because I can't go out in public with all the threats that he told the neighbors.
I don't know, it was just messed up. I don't even know.
To watch my back and everything.
Model Amanda Van Geertree is suing the father of her child, retail clerk Robert Harris, for smashing her car window with his fist, injuring their daughter.
Ms. Van Geertree, you and the defendant have a child together. The child is a couple of years old. It is your complaint that about 2 years ago, there was an incident with Mr. Harris, and you haven't been together since that incident, according to you. And there was an argument. You got into your car. Your daughter was in the car. It is your claim that Mr. Harris purposely broke the car window, causing the window to shatter all over you and your daughter, caused her to be injured, caused you to be injured, and caused the car to be damaged. Is that your complaint?
As a result of him hitting the window, it happened.
Mr. Harris says that the whole incident was your fault. What happened was an accident. He would never intentionally try to hurt his child. And this lawsuit is motivated by something entirely different. Is that right, Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to tell me how old your daughter was 2 years ago when this incident happened.
11 months old.
Tell me about it.
When we were walking back to go to the washrooms.
Just a second. I don't know washrooms. Where were you? What were you doing?
At a company picnic. And we were going to the washrooms, and his sister's ex-husband or somebody that he wasn't happy with was going to pick up the baby and stopping us and everything, and he went on walking and left me standing there giving me a dirty look that this person was holding our child. And I noticed he was drinking hard liquor, and he would not come out. And when he did come out, I said, I want to leave.
You're going all over the place. You were at a company picnic, you decided you wanted to leave.
I'm nervous right now.
Okay. Sorry. You were at a company picnic, you decided you wanted to leave.
Yes.
What happened when you told him you wanted to leave?
He started to leave. He was telling me he wanted cigarettes that were in the passenger side seat, and he was pointing to them when the windows were up and I was going to pull out. And I said, no, you're not getting it. And I was going to drive back.
Okay. So he saw cigarettes that were in the car.
Yes.
That were his, and he said, I want them.
They were mine.
They were yours?
They were mine.
But he said, I want them.
Yes.
And you said you're not going to get them, and you started to leave.
He said no through the window, and I started pulling out, and that's when he went like this.
And he
hit
slapped?
I don't know if it was open hand or what. He went like this with the anger face. I looked at his face, and that's when the glass shattered.
Glass on which window?
On the passenger side front window next to me. Shattered in like 1,000 pieces. And I turned around. I was wearing glasses at the time, so it didn't get me. It got my arms a little bit, but not bad. I looked back, and my baby was bleeding really bad. And I couldn't help but be hysterical. And he threw the keys, and I was trying to run him back to get the baby out of the car seat. And I was screaming, she's bleeding, she's bleeding. He just kept on walking away. And he didn't care. He just went over to the side.
Okay. You got the baby out of the car seat, right?
Yes.
And the baby went to the doctor or hospital?
I signed a waiver not to have the ambulance in Itasca, Illinois, to take the baby. I was taking her to a hospital by my mom's house, and I rushed her to the hospital there.
In your car?
In my car, yes.
So you got the glass, you cleaned the glass up?
I couldn't clean it all up. They tried while we were in the ambulance.
Okay, where was he?
He was being taken by the police, talked to, and put in the police car. I have police reports.
Can I see the police reports, please?
On the right side is this police report. This previous police reports of his battery was on the left. And I have doctors.
I just want to see this incident. Okay, when your daughter was ultimately taken to the emergency room, she needed some stitches according to your complaint. Is that right?
Yes.
Can I see?
That, please. But, the doctor's records and bills. The bills are in the front, and the old papers, the doctor's forms at that time were in there from the stitches being put in and removed.
Okay. Did you pay these bills?
No. I wanted him to be responsible for them.
Did you pay the bills?
No,
the answer is no. Do you have any insurance?
No, I don't.
Okay, Mr. Harris. I'll hear you, sir.
All right. On July 7th, my mother had a company picnic, and I was with Amanda, and we went, and I saw my sister, and we said hello to my mother and everyone as they was playing bingo. I told Amanda I had to go to the washroom, and she wanted to come with me, and I had, of course, my daughter. Okay, and I met with my sister and her brother-in-law as we was going towards the washroom, and Tommy saw my little daughter, and he went to grab her, and they was talking. So I said I had to use the washroom. I don't want to stay and wait, and that was my brother-in-law. I don't have nothing against my brother-in-law to watch my daughter or to be with my daughter while I go use the washroom. She stayed over there arguing with them, saying that.
She wanted to leave.
Right, she wanted to go to the
I don't care why.
washroom. She wanted to go to the washroom too. That's what I'm saying. So I had to go. I wasn't going to wait for her. I left and went to the men's room. All of a sudden, I come out of the washroom and she said, "Why you leave me out here?" You know, yelling this. "I want to go home. You son of a goo-goo." You know what I'm saying? All type of curse words. So I'm like, I went in there with my nephew. I could see if I was in there with another girl, you acting like this. You know, and then she's like, "I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go." So we was walking out to her car, and I told her to hand me my house keys. Because I feel like I don't want her going in my house, because she went in my house on one incident and took some stuff out of there that, you know what I'm saying? So I like, no, give me my house keys. She didn't want to do that, so eventually she gave the keys. And as I went around, I seen my cigarettes on my side, where I was pointed at my cigarettes on the passenger side. And I said, "Man, I want my cigarettes." She said, "No, no." And I said, "Man, give me my cigarettes." She said, "No, you son of a," you know, once again. And she put the car in reverse, and I seen her feet was about to step on the paddle. So I jumped back. And when I jumped back, I had a bracelet on it, and that hit the window. It hit a metal piece on it, and I guess it hit the center of the window, and it broke the glass. I was in shock. And at the time, I didn't know my daughter was bleeding until I walked around, and my sister said, "Bobby, your daughter bleeding." I said, "What?"
Okay, I got it. I got it. Do you visit with your daughter, sir?
Yes, I get her every other weekend. And it was supposed to be during the summer. Right now, I'm going for full custody of my daughter.
Why is that?
Amanda has a serious drug problem. And she even tried to commit suicide just over a year ago by trying to OD. And actually, she's very unstable. For the time that I've known her, she always have excuses of why she can't get things done. She have
a drug
right now.
problem? No.
That drug problem, Your Honor, left my daughter in DCF care about 5 or 6 several times. And every time.
Your daughter ever been in foster care?
No.
Because
ever been out of your custody?
No.
Yes, she had. When she tried to kill herself, I got custody of my daughter.
For a couple weeks.
That was like for a whole month almost. This happened in 2001 in February, so I had it like almost up until the end of March. And I took full responsibility. She swears to God that I have a drinking problem, but when I took full responsibility of my daughter, there was no drinking. I was picking her up and taking her, dropping her off to the babysitter, making her work on time, doing a responsible thing.
Did you plead guilty, sir, to disorderly conduct?
Yes, I was acting in a manner of, you know, anger. I was like yelling and stuff like that.
You were?
That's the only thing I played, but I didn't plead on all the other charges was dropped.
Yeah, I don't think you intentionally hurt your daughter, sir.
No, I did not.
I don't think you intentionally hurt her at all. Neither does she think you intentionally hurt her.
Nor did I try to break that window, neither.
I don't know whether you tried to hurt the window, but you hurt the window, right?
Right, it happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today.
Well, you mean he was selling drugs or using them?
Well, I saw there was money on her bed, and it was a large sum of money, so I knew he was dealing with it.
So then both you smelled it and he was selling it, right? Smell and sell.
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amanda Van Geertree says ex-boyfriend Robert Harris smashed her car window with his fist, injuring their daughter inside. Robert says it was a freak accident.
You've been arrested before for domestic violence?
Yes,
Problem is not an answer.
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Once. Well, twice concerning this window being broke.
Your Honor, I have a picture of my daughter, the scar on her head.
I'm sure Mr. Harris knows that there's a scar on your daughter's face. He didn't mean to hurt her. You don't think he meant to hurt her?
No,
right?
but it is a result of his actions. And
it's a result of his bad
I shouldn't have
temper.
to pay for his actions.
You shouldn't have to pay for the medical bills that resulted from his actions. Isn't that right, sir?
Well, I feel like, no.
You feel like what? Of course not. Of course she shouldn't have to pay for the medical bills that are as a result of your actions.
Well, as I was telling you, when she put the car in reverse, she was about to, she stormed out, backing up. I had to jump back. That's what caused the window broke. I didn't go up to the window and hit the window at all.
Listen to me. The car didn't hit your arm. Your arm hit the car.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes. It was all a freak accident. I guess you're right, then I should be responsible for paying it, you know.
Okay. I want to tell you something, Mr. Harris. You may be 100% right that you are the more appropriate custodian. You've got a hurdle to overcome, and that is these prior police reports. I'm sure that the judge who's handling the custody case will look at that and balance it with whatever problems you have and make a decision.
I just wanted to say, when she's talking about the medical bills and all that stuff, I'm reliable for that. I understand that.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get the court to understand that I'm not out there just angry and just doing crazy stuff.
I don't think you're angry and doing crazy stuff. I think you lost your temper.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
I think you lost your temper, and that's what happens when you lose your temper. You're responsible for what happens as a result of that.
But, Your Honor,
what
about the 2 years, and what about the pain and suffering for Olivia, having to go for stitches, and me having to hold her down, and just
what about that?
2 years having to go to court?
What about that?
Because missing work because of him.
You break.
Thank you.
He's the father, just like you're the mother. There was an accident. It was caused by his bad temper. You don't bring the father to court because, let's say she was riding a bicycle. He was teaching her how to ride a bicycle, and he wasn't careful. And as a result of that, the bicycle went over, and she broke an arm. You think you can bring the father to court for the broken arm because he wasn't careful, because he was negligent in teaching how to ride a bicycle? We'd be in court all the time. That's what happens to young children. Now, this unfortunate incident happened because he lost his temper. That doesn't mean you bring a father to court for pain and suffering for a daughter. She's not any more your child than she is his. Do you understand that? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,111.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I guess now, by hearing Judge Judy ruling, I am kind of responsible for it.
I believe that this judgment was wrong. I think I should have gotten more.
I got a little daughter by, a lady that's not stable, has a drug problem.
He didn't care. He walked away when she was covered in blood.
And right just before the show, she called me talking about she hoped that we can come out here and get things back together. And now she want to come here and cry and make me look like an angry person.
He just wants to hurt me some more. It won't stop.
I think that's what's wrong, but that's how she is.
Machine operator Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, 27-year-old teacher's aide Melissa Filarecki, for the return of her son's belongings. Melissa is countersuing for harassment.
The defendant was your son's girlfriend for a long time.
Yes.
How long did you live together?
5.5 years.
No, not that long.
That's what she says.
I'm sorry.
And your son was in a tragic accident and was killed.
Yes, he was.
And what you want from the defendant is property that you say belonged to your son. It was your son's property.
Yes.
The defendant says that they lived together for a long time. They accumulated property together. She has given you some of his personal property, but the rest she feels is hers. And she is also counterclaiming because she says you've been harassing her, and there is some property that you have that actually belongs to her, right? Mm-hmm. I assume you would not have brought your counterclaim if the plaintiff had not brought her claim.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to go to you for a minute. When did you and Mrs. Jones's son move in together?
Back in '97.
Okay. Tell me about the accident. Were either of you present when the accident happened?
Right after I was.
What was the date of the accident?
November 16, 2001.
And it was an automobile accident, is that right?
No, ATV, four-wheel terrain vehicle.
Okay. What items of personal property do you want?
He has a ring from Sealy Company, a gold ring that they had given him. Literally what I have right now is I had his work clothes, which were junk.
His work clothes, yes.
They're junk. I mean, they're holes.
Right.
I can do nothing with them.
Go ahead.
Things that I want back are the things that I was part of his life for, that he had bought.
Well,
himself.
talk to me. I so far hear a gold ring. This
They're
is a court.
stereo equipment.
His stereo equipment?
Speakers, amplifiers.
Just a stereo. So far that...
I'm willing, if she has receipts, they'll probably fall on the credit cards that I've been paying for the last 3 years.
Why have you been doing that?
Because he was paying for her truck a lot. She kept getting it repossessed. Didn't have the money to make her truck payments, so he would make her truck payments. Then he wouldn't be able to pay his bills.
So he'd come to you and you'd make gifts to him?
No, not gifts. He had him pay him back.
Did he pay you back?
Not all of it. He died before.
Well, no court is going to go through all those bills and figure out what he paid and what he didn't pay. I mean, these people lived together for, let's say, minimally 5 years. They had a home together. I mean, I can understand as his mother you might want certain sentimental things, but let's proceed with the list that you say. We have a stereo, we have a PlayStation. Go ahead, what else?
VCR, his DVD, his nice clothing that he had that wasn't all tore up. There was a lot of Dale Earnhardt collectibles that I had bought in him.
Yes, race cars. Go ahead.
He collected all things that I had bought in him through the years for Dale Earnhardt.
That you gave him as gifts?
To my son.
That you gave him as gifts?
Yes.
Once you give him things as gifts, they're gifts. What else?
He had car amplifiers, which were at one time in my truck. He had a cash box full of credit cards, which I had to call credit card companies because she kept those.
So you called the credit card companies and canceled them?
Yes.
Go ahead, Miss Jones.
I mean, he had all of his clothing, Everything that was important to me, what David was into, and everything that was important to him.
Everything that was important to your son, he shared with the person he lived with, Miss Jones.
Well,
the only thing that you said to me that in any way moves me is a gold ring. A gold ring that may have had some sentimental value for you. A stereo doesn't have sentimental value. Neither does a VCR, a DVD, a car amplifier. Put my glasses on to see what else. A PlayStation. Even small race cars don't have sentimental value for you. I can understand you wanting to have something that belongs to your son that you can keep, that you can hold, that you can put in a box.
Well,
the only thing that would be is a ring. The rest of the stuff only has monetary value.
When this first happened, when David first passed away, Melissa asked me if she could use David's things, because I had went down and got it from circuit court, so I was taking care of his estate.
Let me see what you have from surrogate's court.
And she asked me, could she use his things?
Let
Which,
me just.
of course, I said yes.
I want to see what it says here.
Okay.
Okay. All this says is you can act as his voluntary administratrix. Was there any insurance or any other settlement as a result of this accident?
Life insurance?
Any insurance? Any insurance? Any lawsuit? Any money?
Life insurance.
Okay. And who was the beneficiary?
I was.
Okay. And how much was the life insurance policy?
$40,000.
Okay, so you got $40,000. So that the sum total of his estate was the $40,000.
Well, there was another insurance that he had through J.C. Penney, accidental death and dismemberment.
Yes.
And that was $125,000.
And who got that?
I did.
Okay.
He left everything to me.
Fine. And you got all that already.
Right.
So why are we here? I don't understand why we're here.
Because these were his things. She made an agreement with me. She said, in her exact words, when I move out of this house, I will return everything of David's to you. And I believed her. I took her for her word, which, when she did move out of the house, she did leave the things. The next morning, they were gone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter, and she will come home in a body bag.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, Melissa Filarecki, for the return of his belongings. Melissa says Margaret already has everything.
All right, I'll hear you. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I do have the ring for her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, you may.
You say it was a gold ring?
It's supposed to be.
What does it say on it?
From the Ceiling Mattress Company.
What was it for?
He was Employee of the Month many, many times. Many
What
times.
else do you have in the bag?
I have the list of stuff I left in the apartment for Margaret.
Can I see it, please? What else is in the bag?
Oh, just pictures, and I have a pin that he got from
Can I see
Celia.
it?
Yeah, you want the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Did the defendant give you the following? Necklace, charms, class ring, and keychain with baby pictures on it.
Yes, those I got. Those were things I gave my son, yes.
She gave them back to you?
Yes, she did.
A teddy bear with a graduation year on it.
That I don't remember.
Title to a motorcycle, a 1998 four-wheeler Rabbit.
Title's in his name, yes.
She gave it
Yes.
to you.
They were in his name.
Dale Earnhardt Collectibles.
No, there's only a few pieces.
But she gave you some.
She gave me some of them.
A home gym.
Yes.
Coffee table
No.
he made in high school.
No, I haven't seen that.
Your Honor,
Yes.
it was not left on the back porch. The door was broken off.
Camcorder.
Yes.
All the Christmas decorations.
No.
Model cars.
The only model cars that I know of, and I don't have them, is the cars that I bought for him, but I don't have them now.
Raiders collections.
That's three-quarters away going, too. There's only a few pieces left of that.
Car
She gave
parts, stereo, and speakers.
No.
What'd you do with those?
I left everything on the back porch.
No.
Listen, in the 5 years that you were together, did you exchange gifts?
Yes, we did.
Were you both employed?
Yes, we were.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a certified nurse's aide, and I also went to school full-time.
When you leased these apartments together, did you purchase things for the apartment together?
Yes, we did.
And you kept a stereo and a VCR and a DVD?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a cash box that you know about?
That's where I got the ring, and I do have the credit cards with me.
Okay, you can give those to her. She's already canceled them. Ms. Jones, I'm going to tell you the following, and then I'm going to very quickly address your counterclaim. When somebody dies, an easier emotion to deal with is usually anger.
Yes, ma'am.
You said yes. Do you really understand what I mean? The sadness, is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
You see, it's much easier to be angry at somebody than to be hurt and feel sad, because you can vent it out. You can get it out. Whereas dealing with the sorrow of somebody's death is much more painful. Whether they had a good relationship or a bad relationship, your son was together with this woman for 4.5 years, and he was a young man. So for the better part of really his adult life, they were together. They were a couple. Whether you thought they were good for each other or bad for each other, it's irrelevant. She was part of his life for a very long time. She tried to do the right thing with you. I mean, if you're talking to me about this ring, you're talking about not a gold ring. I don't even think it's a silver ring. It's a ring that says Celie on it. She's giving it to you. There's a pin there that also was an Employee of the Month pin. She's giving that to you. It's easier to be angry at her than to either accept certain responsibilities that you might feel for his death, maybe his sister, because this accident was with an ATV, an all-terrain vehicle.
Yes.
Were you there?
I was on it.
She was involved in it.
I mean, I could tell from looking at her that there's more than just grief there, so many months away from the incident, that there may be a little bit of guilt attached.
Right.
Maybe. But that's not her fault. That's not her fault. Nothing's going to bring your son back. Certainly a stereo, a VCR, and a DVD are not going to bring your son back.
Nothing can bring my son back. You're right.
Right. Nothing. Not the $125,000 you got from one insurance policy or the $40,000 that you got from the other insurance policy. Not a VCR, a DVD, and his clothing. They're not going to bring him back.
Well,
these are little mementos that she says you can have.
Told me before she didn't have them.
Oh, well, here they are.
Can I speak,
And
Your
I
Honor?
want you to have them. That's all. You can give these back to the plaintiff. Do you want to proceed with this counterclaim that you have for harassment, or you just
Yes.
want to say, listen, let's try to be friends?
No, I do.
I'm listening.
I have the police report. She called and threatened my mom that my mom was going to know.
Is your mother here?
Yes, she is.
Tell me your name.
Linda Villarecki. I'm her mother.
You want to tell me about this phone call that you got from the plaintiff?
Yes, it was a day or two after Melissa moved back home. I had gotten a phone call from Margaret wanting to speak to Melissa, and I wasn't sure who it was, and I asked who she was. She said, Margaret. And I said, Margaret, she's not here. She's working right now. And she said she promised to give me David's PlayStation and surround sound, and she had mentioned things, and I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position that you're into. I said, I would never want that. She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter, and she will come home in a body bag, and she will know how it feels to lose a child. And I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position. And she just went, she was out of control, and I just hung up on her.
Anger is a much easier thing to deal with than sorrow, because she's able to lash out at you rather than dealing internally with the sorrow of the event
Right.
and the sorrow of the loss.
But I was worried that she was so upset that she had, it was possible.
And you made a police report.
Yes.
Can I see the police report, please?
And, Your Honor, I also missed 2 weekends of work because I also waitress on the weekends.
In
In Troy. And my boss wrote me a letter.
I don't read letters from bosses. This report is dated in June. Is that right?
Yes.
The police did ask her not to, just try to stay away from Troy as much as she could for a while until Margaret did calm down.
Did the police come to your house, Mrs. Jones, and speak to you?
No, they did not, Your Honor.
They should have.
I have my police report here where they for larceny, and I never bothered her at her job.
I didn't ask you
call her
about your job.
house.
I'm talking to you about this phone call. I believe her mother that
Well,
you had this conversation with her.
I had a conversation with Melissa when she called me
No,
3 or
with her
4
mother.
times.
I'm talking with her mother.
3 or 4 times she's called me.
Did you understand
Yes,
what I
ma'am,
said?
did.
I'm talking about the conversation with her mother. I absolutely believe her mother when her mother says to me that you said, unless I get these things back, you're going to see your daughter in a body bag. Then you'll know how it feels. What kind of thing is that to say? It's only because you're angry.
They were never together that length of time either because she had left and went with another guy for a while. The first night of his wake, she had another man sleeping over. And I'd say just about every week after that, there was a different guy in there.
Let me explain something to you. I don't believe that.
That's the honest to God truth.
I don't believe that. Just as I don't believe that you took $165,000 that you got when your son died, right, and went and blew it in Las Vegas.
What?
I wouldn't believe that because you don't look like that kind of person. You look like a reasonable kind of person. And I'm looking at her, and I don't believe that she brought another guy to his, she may have brought another person who was a male to his wake. Listen, you have an anger, and I'm trying very hard to be nice to you.
I know you are.
I am really trying very hard to be nice to you. Your daughter was involved, at least in this incident.
Yes, she was.
You and your brother, how far apart in age are you?
I'm his twin.
So it was very difficult for you.
She has
nothing. It's
very difficult for you. And you actually saw the accident.
He was helping me.
He was helping you when it happened. So you have a certain guilt, right? You have a certain guilt. I understand that. Don't be mad at her. There's no reason to be mad at her. For over a TV, over a VCR, over a stereo. Listen, your son moved out of the house when he was how old?
19.
That's very young to move out of the house. There has to be a reason for that.
He lived right downstairs from me.
I don't care whether he lived right downstairs. There's a reason a child moves out of the house when they're 18 years old unless they go away to school.
No, he moved down
these days.
With his girlfriend.
Now you can't get rid of him until they're 35.
Well, actually, Judge, he swore he'd never leave again, and he's always stayed by me. And she can even tell you I came first in his life. Always.
Well, I want to tell you something. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for a 26-year-old man to have to say, my mother comes first in my life, and she always will.
Because I always helped him when he needed help. I always tried to guide him to do the right thing.
That's what you're supposed to do. So you're not supposed to tarnish his death with this kind of stupidity lawsuit. It's stupid.
That's right.
A VCR, a television set should not bring you to court. You should say whether they were together a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. There were certain periods of time when they brought each other pleasure, when they cared for each other. She knows how much he cared for you. She knows how much she cared for you. You're supposed to just be a nice lady. So, you got the sentimental things back that I think that she was nice to give back to you, that you have, they're yours. I want you to forget about a VCR. I want you to forget about a PlayStation. And I want you to forget about your counterclaim. She's not thinking rationally. Do you understand? You understand? It's going to take some time, because the truth of the matter is, whether you have found another person or not, I certainly hope you have, because you're supposed to move on. You're a young woman. She will never get over the death of her child. You don't get over the death of a child. You sometimes get over the death of a partner, a maid, a boyfriend, you know, because you move on with your life and you find someone else to fill that void. She's never going to fill that void, but you have to fill that void with something other than anger, because it's not healthy.
I know.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy. Make up. Be nice with each other. Your cases are dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It sucked.
I just wanted to be over with.
She lied about everything and got away with it.
I think I've been more than fair with her.
She lied to me. She made an agreement.
I have no clue.
She made an agreement to give his things back, and I trusted her.
I think I gave them everything.
She probably wants to sell it because her mother won't pay her car payment.
They need to let go.
I will never, ever forgive or respect that girl till the day I die.
She's done nothing, and I'm just worried that they're not going to let go, and they need to let go.
She completely destroyed my brother's memory.
The comments that they make and what they're doing now, it was totally unnecessary, but they just won't let go.
I will never forgive her.
Lies are just too much.
That is my twin.
Lies.
I have nothing.
I do understand that, but they are making it so hard on her.
I will never forgive her, ever.
We can move on with the grieving process away from each other.
I do not go near them.
They're very angry people.
I was on a quad and it took off. He tried to help me and he got killed.
She might be taking the blame out on me.
I don't ever want to even see her face again.
I miss him.
Number 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Menzel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster?
Right.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building?
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from, that space which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay, give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes.
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events.
Yes, ma'am.
Social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
okay,
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. And
that's what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me, when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that? When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met living at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's?
That's the studio that she runs.
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it, because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes. After.
Just a second. Okay. You prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, etc.
That is...
Now, that Now, that happened, according to you, because you do not own that space. You rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. Oh, that's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your 2 partners that the...
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you?
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct, that it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And so,
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very
Court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people. It makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event, so...
I see your point now that you put it that way.
Maybe.
I just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion
Sure.
and perspective.
Parties, please step forward.
Diamond Thomas and Rumby Williams are suing Rumby's former friend, Shamia Gilmore, for a deposit and the costs of a brunch.
Diamond, this is your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you were planning a baby shower?
It was actually a sip and see for her.
What is that?
So it's like family and friends weren't allowed to really come to the hospital, so we decided to have a little event after the baby turned 6 weeks.
Okay, so that was October 22nd.
Yes.
You hired Miss Gilmore as the caterer of that little event. She quoted you a price of $500 to cater the event, and you gave her a $250 deposit.
Correct.
Then some stuff bothered you a little bit because you, according to what I read, you found some either text messages or whatever between the defendant and boyfriend, which you felt were a little too cozy by her.
Yes.
And you gave her a buzz and you sort of had it out with her. I don't want you to do this anymore, whatever. Anyway, you called her back and said, yes, I want you to do it. She ended up not doing this sip and see. And she finally called you and said, I'm not doing it. I don't like the attitude. I'm not doing it. And you said, fine, give me my $250 back. She said, no. So you're suing her for not only your deposit back, $250, you did hire other people to cater the event.
No, we did it ourselves.
And you want her to pay $1,025 because you said that that's what it cost you over and above $250 plus the rest.
Yes.
Well, that you can't have. An offer and acceptance and a meeting of the minds. That was the contract. That doesn't have to be in writing.
We have a verbal agreement.
Diamond Thomas and Rumby Williams claim Rumby's former friend, Shamia Gilmore, owed for a deposit and the costs of a brunch.
Okay, you're going to tell me you chose not to do this shower. You chose not to do it.
Well, it's not that I didn't choose not to do it. It's she went to Twitter and threatened to beat butt, and I'm not doing business. If you want to fight me, it's
okay.
It doesn't make sense to be
okay. Well, I don't blame you. If she went to Twitter and said something nasty about you, then I wouldn't do her baby shower, sip and see, whatever they call it. I wouldn't do it either. Then you have to give her back her $250.
And I bought items for the brunch already. I offered the mimosa bar back and I offered $125 back. She wants the whole thing. If I already spent money out my pocket, there's no way you think I'm finna give you a whole $250. That doesn't make sense.
Well, just a second. Okay. Let me see what she wrote about you on Twitter.
And also, Judge.
So what you're saying is you actually made a purchase.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have proof of that purchase that you made?
I have the mimosa bar. I don't have it with me, but I didn't print anything off.
I don't even know what that is.
Bar.
What is a mimosa bar?
So it's where you put the mimosa glasses on it's a grass wall, but it has where you hang the cups up on the wall with the mimosa glass, like the champagne flutes that you put on the wall. And then it has.
Have you used that before?
No, I bought one before, but I still have it brand new.
Just a second. Have you used it before? You're a caterer.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Quite a few.
How many?
2 hands, maybe 7 or 8 times.
Okay. And you buy a new one each time you use it?
Yes, ma'am. I let them keep it.
Just a second. You let them keep it. Well, now you can keep this one and use it next time.
Okay.
And I would like to say something about the $950 that she owes us. We gave her a deposit of $250, and she is claiming that we had made anything threatening towards her.
No, just a second.
And she canceled on us. And so I feel that we didn't have enough ample time to be able to find another caterer to do our event.
Well, that's too bad.
Can I ask why?
Absolutely, because you're entitled to your money back, but your contract was for her to do a party, which she ended up not doing.
Can we see the contract? Because I don't.
No, you haven't. We
don't have the contract.
Yeah, and
yes, you do. You had an agreement. She was going to do an event for you on October 22nd. You agreed for her to do the event for you on October 22nd, and you gave her a $250 deposit. That's a contract. It's an oral contract. You had an offer. You had an acceptance. That's a contract. An offer and acceptance and a meeting of the minds. She was going to do the event for $500. You paid her $250. That was the contract. That doesn't have to be in writing.
We have a verbal agreement via
That's what
Instagram.
That's what I just said.
So it is in writing.
Who cares?
Well, it was the point that how are we supposed to be compensated for everything that we had to do after she canceled?
Well, you have to grow up. You have a baby.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is this your only baby?
Yes.
Great, you have a baby. You have to grow up. I grew up so much, the old me would have beat out one of you. What is that?
I'm not sure.
Would you show this to the plaintiff? I'm just curious. She's going to give you back your $250 anyway. She chose not to do the event.
What?
I don't know what that is. I'm showing it to you. She gave me to show me something that you wrote.
You want me to read it?
No, I'm just
asking.
asking
you what it is?
No, I'm just asking you if you were the author of that.
Yes.
And who did you write it about?
It was just a general statement. It wasn't about anybody in particular. That's why I didn't
give that back.
Direct it. The name.
Very, very easy. Your baby nice? You happy with your baby?
Yes.
Very good. Do you have nothing to do with her anymore?
No.
Good. You have a mimosa wall? Use it for another event. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. We're done here. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I don't agree with the judge's decision.
I'm satisfied with the $250 and knowing that Shamia was wrong to keep our deposit after she canceled on us.
It's just a lot of mess. I won't do business with them ever again.
It is what it is. If she felt some type of way, that's on her.
I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing.
We just won't ever do business with her again because she is very unprofessional, just like the tweet said.
Do you know it's an exciting day when at my age you learn something new?
We learn a lot of new things here.
Learn a lot of new things here. So I've just about mastered the engagement party, the wedding, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, quinceañeras, christenings, baptisms, baby showers, if I haven't mentioned that, anniversary parties. But this is the first time I ever heard that expression, a sip and see.
Yeah, I think it's a new thing. I think COVID probably played a role in it, about people not wanting to have big parties or interact with large numbers of people, especially before giving birth with all the hospital requirements. So I like the idea. I've only been to 1 or 2, but the idea is you wait for your child to be about 6 weeks old, so they've been vaccinated, and
they're not vaccinated when you're 6.
Well, the first round of baby shots, and then they're able to see family and have a baby shower where the baby is included. So
I'll add it to my list of.
Herman and Tina Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years?
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car
Yes.
that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck.
Yes.
By agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck.
That's correct.
Since 2017, since they
correct.
were married,
Yes.
with no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, babamaisis in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babamaisis, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payments.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in the ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck. They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning because I was paying all their bills.
Just a sec. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason. And that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Well, sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her two kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have some place to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And
he
he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you?
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest-to-God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck, so you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. It's mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me. So sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody?
Yes.
Sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and later on he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody. Somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you seem like
live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6-7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer? That's what you meant when you said any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
And Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin. And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you know, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that
you can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter,
yes,
you had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15, pajamas, 8:30, bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just a second. If you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
That's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always had.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer by the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back, and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these 2 little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
a legitimate debt
or claim, then that's the place where you should bring it.
Absolutely.
Hello các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ có một trang vẽ nhân vật Minion nha. Tại mình sẽ tô màu cho hai cái vật dừa này. Tại mình sẽ tô cái tô rua này nha. Mình sẽ đưa vào tay nha. Và mình sẽ tô màu đôi kính, chiếc kính. Rồi mình sẽ tô màu cho bạn Minion nhé. Như vậy là mình cũng đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh về nhân vật Minion của ngày hôm nay. Đây là bức tranh mà mình đã hoàn thiện. Mọi người có thấy cute không? Cảm ơn các bạn đã cùng mình theo dõi video này. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại nha.